So released by Bolton, you're now trekking around the country and you're looking for another club to become a scholar at, really. You've settled on Sheffield United. You're now a scholar. You're a full-time player. Tell us what that was like, leaving school and becoming it becoming your profession.
Wicked. Best 2 years of, you hear everyone say it, but best 2 years of my footballing career so far. Going from like your schoolmates but you're only with them for probably an hour a day where you can kind of cause a bit of mischief and stuff, to every single day, 8 o'clock in the morning when you get in, till about 4 o'clock we'd leave after a double session and stuff. The whole day, apart from probably an hour and a half of working when you're on the pitch, changing room banter in the canteen, doing your jobs. It was just brilliant. Obviously, you get told off every now and then by your coach, but it never end up going back to your mum or dad. So it was perfect. But the first year went straight back to the feeling of sort of when I got released from Bolton. It didn't go as well as planned.
Go on, tell us why.
Just obviously, like I say, I think when I got released from Bolton, I was probably about 5'8", and that was in the September, October time. Signed for Sheffield in the new year, and by the time I signed in May to go to scholarship, I was about 6'1". So as you say, you sort of go from being a nice tidy keeper to gangly and looking a little bit ugly and can't really move properly, and just things were going in, and it was sort of my first taste of, like, although it's not for like people's so you're not sort of playing for mortgages and putting food on the table and stuff, it was still about winning. For the first proper time, you could see the league table and stuff, and we had a young team, didn't play well at all. We was getting beat all the time, and I remember we played Sheffield Wednesday at home. I think we lost like 10 on the row, and this was the 10th one. And Sheffield United, Sheffield Wednesday is a big rivalry, even at under 18s, especially when your manager is a diehard Sheffield United and he's played for Sheffield United. So we all sort of got grilling in the changing rooms after, and it was a reality check for me. I remember getting told we're looking for other goalkeepers at the start of next year to come and basically take your place, challenge you, and then look to take your place. And the goalie coach then backed it up. And at that point, that's when it hit home, because normally your goalie coach tries to sort of defend you as best he can. But it was definitely something I needed to hear. And I think came back pre-season, seen off 2 or 3 trialists, and 6 months later I came on the goalkeeping camp with you, and something must have clicked over the summer. Didn't really do much at all. Did a bit of work back with Fred sort of last 2 weeks of my summer, but you could just see, although I'm not sort of the biggest or whatever, but my body sort of merged better, formed better, and I looked less gangly. Still looked like a twig, but I looked more formed. So it must have just kicked on. But that first year on the pitch was horrendous, but off it, scholarship coming out of school was great.
Yeah. So that happens, as you know, to all of us at some stage. You've been through it. You've got through it. You've now reflected on it. Like, what advice would you give to people who are in that situation? Because it's so challenging and frustrating.
Yeah, you've just got to try and find ways to work with it. You go back to the controllables again, and you can't control the fact that you're growing and your knees hurting and you've got Osgood slatters, but there's ways around it. There's prehab and rehab. There's ways around it, and for you to feel you might know you look slow and things like that, but there's ways for you to do things which are still effective. There's ways around everything which make you become using these sort of weaknesses or these blips in the road, and it's just getting back out there. It's almost just getting back out there every time and facing it head on. I remember so many times thinking, sort of at the weekend, or even if I go up and do the goalie training with the keepers, that was my biggest thing. I knew I shouldn't have been there. I knew I shouldn't, at this moment in time, I wasn't ready to be training with George Long, Mark Howard, Darren Wood, the goalie coach. I knew it, but them smashing balls at me and probably 8 of them going in and 2 of them making a save and 1 might be off your face. But that was just me standing up to the fact of making the best out of a bad situation, really. It's going to happen. Like you say, it happens to everyone, and it only happens for a period. It's how you, like say, you go back to sort of your character again. Go back to that, how you deal with it.
Yeah, bro. So I'm going to share a bit of information now. So I remember watching you at your club. I remember you coming in to a goalkeeping camp with England. So that probably looked like 10 or 12 keepers all coming to St. George's for 3 or 4 days. And what did I see when you walked through the door? I saw someone with personality and character. You smiled. You looked me in the eye. You had a spring in your step. When you went onto the pitch, were you the best goalkeeper there? No. Were you positive in everything that you did and tried to do things with confidence? Absolutely. And I remember seeing you catch a cross, run to the end of the area, or run to the edge of the area and side volley it on the run. I think we were doing an exercise where it forced you to side volley on the run. And your positivity in 1, coming for the cross, and 2, trying to do this side volley on the run was amazing, really. So, for such a pressured situation that would have been for you, I imagine. How did you remain as kind of like positive and, as positive and as you were?
Excitement. To have 3 lions on your shirt, as there was no players there and it wasn't an official England squad. Just to have that kit was amazing. Also, knowing that I wasn't probably the best goalie there allowed me to go, do you know what, I'm going to show you. Having the goalkeepers, I think Paul Woolston was definitely there.
Yeah.
And he was my age goalkeeper. They just returned from him, Alfie Whiteman. I just returned from Chile in the 17s World Cup.
Yeah.
A couple of months before. So I knew that was what I needed to obviously get to, or get in and around for me to be picked for the squad. And that was that. There was no pressure on me, because why would there? If you don't do so well, you don't get picked. If you do well, you get picked. And it's not Last Chance Saloon. I was 17, maybe turning 18. And that's just the way I looked at it was, okay, it's learning. I need to get to where he's at. He needs to keep me at bay, and that's sort of how I've looked the whole way through. And I think, like you say, training with Darren Ward and the first team goalkeepers at Sheffield United, being in and around back end of Nigel Clough, knowing what first team football was like, it was almost like it's a little bit more comfortable. And I looked around and sort of saw people at big clubs and sort of purely under 18s, and probably haven't had like Michael Doyle, who's an experienced pro, absolutely screaming at you for playing to the wrong foot rather than his back foot. Still a good pass, but absolutely nailing you. And I just felt comfortable in that environment, because it was a little bit easier as the environment than what first team football was.
Bro. So we've merged this into some England stuff a little bit now. So you've then done enough to get yourself onto a proper event with the under-18s. So another tick in the box, another rung on the ladder. In you come into England under-18s. You made your debut against Ireland on pitch 6. How did the game go? How did you do? What do you remember?
I remember being nervous as anything. It was windy, really windy. I think it was in the November camp, and it was freezing and it was windy. And I'd gone from a team who at Sheffield we kicked, even the 18s we kicked long, to obviously a team want to play out. And although I sort of at that time I had to work on it a lot, but I had the sort of mindset that I could do it. It was tough. I think it was a 4-1 win. I think the goal which got scored was sort of me trying to play into midfield, I believe. So sort of that's probably my over eagerness to try and show I could play out. So I felt I did all right. It was the next game where the sort of big blip happens. And do you remember South Korea?
Yeah, sure do.
And at that point, I thought, that's me done. I didn't think I'd be coming back from that.
So I think remembering this stuff really well is just how we're gonna, talk about bouncing back from not setbacks, but mistakes and things like that, and reaching a level. So you play for England under-18s. You kind of got to that level and that accolade. You're then told that, right, if you want to play at this level again, you've got to go away and work on certain parts of your game. So I suppose, how do you reach a level or accomplishment and then reset your goals to then go again? How do you keep resetting yourself?
Listening to the people who were telling me these things. This wasn't my dad telling me. It wasn't someone who has a knowledge of football but wasn't the one making the decisions or had a massive knowledge of it. So when either yourself or the England coach was saying, if you want to play more regularly with us, you need to work on your distribution. Well, I then I had brilliant coaches at Sheffield United and Jamie Anderson and Darren Ward at the time. And we just went and we did kicking on the indoor Astro, and George Long used to come and help as well. So having a first team goalie come and do it and set challenges. I think the main thing is challenging. Competition for me is key. It's very easy for me to get bored and just sort of go through the motions. And then there's times where I'd train in the morning with the team, and then in the afternoon or in the evenings, I'd either stay with the under-16s or the under-17s, and I'd play as an outfielder and do possessions and passing drills. And then when they obviously went into all their training, I'd just obviously leave and do that. So it was quite easy for me because I knew what was getting said was what needed to be done, because it wasn't anybody telling me, wasn't anybody who didn't have an opinion on what I needed to do was telling me. Everyone who was contributing to me to get better all had the correct input for me to either play for England or play for Sheffield United at the time.
Yeah, class. So I think, like, just to clarify that bit, you've taken some feedback from coaches, peers, and also what you've seen yourself. You've gone back to your club or back to your home, depending where you're at, and you've actually worked on this part of your game yourself in order to get it to a level which allows you to kick on. Would that be fair?
Yeah, so that's no doubt in my distribution. I knew that on a Saturday for the 18s, I wasn't being asked to play into midfield or play to the 9. play onto and into and things like that. But I knew on a Tuesday and a Thursday afternoon when the under-16s came in for day release and they were doing possession and I was the floater, I knew I weren't going to be doing tricks and flicks, but I knew how to receive the ball and move it quick, play through lines, disguise passes and things, and that's how I did it. And it was all off my own back because, like I say, Sheffield United certainly at that time didn't want me taking it back foot, clip into a full-back opposite side. They wanted me to take a touch, play forward, play for second balls, play for throw-ins, attack that way. So that was down to me, but because the coaches like I keep saying, the coaches had that main input. If they're saying it and they're picking the starting 11, that's how I'm going to get into the starting 11.
Yeah, brilliant. No, so I think it's just an amazing story of how you develop yourself.